There's that funky slot guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on the Evil FB Network. YouTube, check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire. Roy Bleckert, you'll see my nice, smiling, shining face popping up all over the airways. Of course, we'll join the Mighty Met KMET, as we usually do at the bottom of the hour. Kelly Victory will probably be in tomorrow. She has a commitment today, so look forward to that. I know a lot of people tune in to see Dr. Kelly. Lots of stuff on the horizon. Get the latest on the governor's race. And you know what? Even they are still more nervous now than they were a month ago that Steve and Chad might make the top two. Don't believe the rhetoric that's going on or all the misinformation that's going on out there. There's a lot of positive signs. Maybe we will fix California once and for all. None other than the U frickin' N has destroyed the climate change, global warming. Oh, we're all going to burn up. Oh, we're all going to freeze to death. Oh, the oceans are going to go above Mount Whitney. We're all going to drown. The UN said it's all a bunch of bunk. Proving Donald J. Trump and all of us had said for decades, and I've been on this planet parts of 7 decades, every decade we were either going to burn up, we were going to freeze to death, or we were going to drown. They said now. And they said now, oh, well, it is. And you're not going to believe. Well, most people are going to deny the reason why. There is no climate change. In fact, the climate and the environment is getting much better because of one policy. We'll delve into that here in a little bit. Big election bust, election fraud bust in California. Oh, it never goes on. Purer than the wind-driven snow. In fact, they're 111% accurate. We've been hearing this for so long. The indication coming out. Alex Palou won the poll for the Indianapolis 500 race. Bad news for Mario Rossi, who qualified second in the surprise for Ed Carpenter Racing. He had a little mishap on the Monday practice today after that. Here's a little snippet
in our
of
week
that.
of practice to run without incident. Rossi losing it midway through 2.
All by
Runs
himself.
up high, left side.
And then you see
into the
Pato
wall.
O'Ward trying to avoid it, gets on the brakes, lifts off, and just spins in the avoidance. These cars are so sensitive to the pitch. A big movement, a big adjustment on the...
Pato O'Ward's car they might be able to fix. I think Rossi's going to have to go to a backup, but we will see. They'll have Friday, I think, on, used to be called Carburation Day, which used to run on Sunday, but whatever the heck they're doing. You should have time to get her in shape. I'm sure he's looking forward to that, coming out from P2 in the middle of the first row. He's got a good shot of winning 500 this year. But our lead story of the day. Bourbon bubble or burst. Here's a little snippet from the Wall Street Journal today via MSN. The birthplace of bourbon is swimming in it. That means the drinking state of Kentucky, where Kentucky bourbon was born. The forested hills of Kentucky's bourbon country are ground zero for the slowdown afflicting U.S. alcohol industry. Distilleries of all sizes have laid off staff, shut down altogether. Even barrel suppliers are feeling it. So there is. Has the bourbon bubble bust? We're going to delve into the reasons why in the Wall Street Journal article that pray tell of why this is happening. So we go on. More Americans are joining the ranks of the sober curious. The sober curious. And inflation have prompted some steady drinkers to cope back. GPL-1, weight loss drugs are having the same effect. Cannabis and THC beverages are widely available. I'd say that's it. Especially with them jacking the THC content up in weed. That's basically, weed is the new alky. Offering a hangover-free buzz, and the Trump administration's trade wars have dented U.S. alcohol sale exports. Most industry players didn't see the collapse coming. It all started during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Americans heavily stocked their bar carts during the lockdowns with bourbon and other spirits. 2022 will probably be the high water mark of alcohol consumption, probably worldwide and in the United States. Well, people were sitting at home from 20 to 22, not going to work. What do? Oh, that Kentucky bourbon looks pretty good. Or that bottle of Chardonnay. Or let's polish off a six-pack of Schaefer beer or something. After peaking at 2022 at 31.2 million liter cases, consumption of American whiskey, including bourbon, Tennessee whiskey, rye, and single malts, has slowed. Distilled Spirits Council industry group said about 30 million 9-liter cases were sold in 2025. This is the damning. Friday, I think, on used to be called Carburation Day, which used to run on Sunday, Journal article with them jacking the THC content up in weed. That's basically, weed is the new alky. Offering a hangover-free buzz, and the Trump administration's trade wars have dented U.S. alcohol sale exports. Most industry players didn't see the collapse coming. It all started during the COVID-19 pandemic, when Americans heavily stocked their bar carts during the lockdowns with bourbon and other spirits. 2022 will probably be the high water mark of alcohol consumption, probably worldwide and in the United States. Well, people were sitting at home from 20 to 22, not going to work. What do? Oh, that Kentucky bourbon looks pretty good. Or that bottle of Chardonnay. Or let's polish off a six-pack of Schaefer beer or something. After peaking at 2022 at 31.2 million liter cases, consumption of American whiskey, including bourbon, Tennessee whiskey, rye, and single malts, has slowed. Distilled Spirits Council industry group said about 30 million 9-liter cases were sold in 2025. This is the damning effect in 3 years. After a record-setting year of Kentucky bourbon and most of alcohol, Kentucky is roughly sitting on 16.1 million barrels of bourbon, the equivalent of around 300 million cases, according to the Kentucky Distillers Association. That's the largest reserve ever, enough to last as much as 10 years, according to industry estimates. 10-year supply of bourbon. People just quit drinking. That's the even larger question. I'm going to say it's because of weed. You know, the legalization of weed, the THC content going way up. So you can get more bang for your buck, as you say, with weed now. And, you know, maybe the hangover-free part has something to do with it too. But who knows? We will see how this all shapes out in the current market. But I thought that was very interesting. We have a 10-year supply of Kentucky bourbon. We have enough reserves to get smashy OLED on Jim Beam or whatever the heck it is for the next 10 years. So, hey, nothing can go bad. We'll get to the climate hoax crap. The climate con, COVID con. You know, I wonder when people are going to start listening. You know how it's so easy to know. Okay, how many times do they have to cry wolf at you? Again, I've been on this planet parts of 7 decades, and we've been getting a fish story. Every 10 years they change it, and the climate keeps getting better. And the reason why is going to shock you as we delve into the rest of today's show. It is going to shock you on the climate change and how we've been getting hosed immensely on that whole issue. It's enough to make you want to drink that 10-year supply of Kentucky bourbon we have stocked up in the U.S. You know, Mr. Trump has taken a lot of heat. You know, and Trump 1, Trump number 2. And let me say, I'm not red hot on this whole Iran thing. I mean, if we wind up going in, just a short story, if we wind up going in, because now we're, the sheiks over there said, don't bomb them yet. If we wind up going bombing them after going through almost 2 months and up to $6 a gallon for gas and $7 for diesel out here, 4 and 5 across most of the country right now, and then we wind up doing it anyway, I mean, if you're going to go for it, and that was your plan, then go for it. So we shall see if they get a deal, if the sheiks can work it out. They're the ones who got the most to lose on that, all the other Middle Eastern companies. But again, he's taken a lot of heat over that whole issue. And then this headline comes up. Climate group reverses course on doomsday prediction and Trump takes victory lap. As he said, wrong, wrong, wrong. And he's using the appropriate wrong 3 times because the world revolves around the number 3. So the UN come out with this funky report. Their panel backed on Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Well, Christ. The climate changes every nanosecond. Temperature is always going up or down. It's raining, it's sunshining, it's winter, it's summer. That's why they had to get off the global warming thing, because that was a complete lie. Well, if you say climate change, well, you can't deny that there's climate change, because it does every stinking second of the day. But they get to these absolute idiotic, absolutely, completely idiotic, mind-numbing stupidity that we have to endure. So, further reading from the NY Post, President Trump took a victory lap Saturday after a prominent international climate change panel backed off some of the most aggressive doomsday estimates after determining that they were not the most plausible outcomes. They adjusted moderating the framework of 2 to 5 Celsius, which is almost 10 degrees, by 2021 last month. The framework underpinned a myriad of other analyses predicting terrifying consequences for greenhouse gas emissions. Good riddance. After 15 years of Democrats, Trump posted that the climate change is going to destroy the planet. The United Nations top climate committee just admitted that their own projections, RCP 0.85, were wrong. The IPCC framework in question was used to forecast a dramatic rise in sea levels, global crop failures, rapidly melting glaciers, which made some hardcore climate change activists fret about the future. What the anorexic brought. Oh, how dare you! And with their sanctimonious little crap. Shove it where the sun don't shine, missy. 'Cause you're a stupid idiot. Well, now you were a teenager, now you're a stupid idiot adult. Trump, who champions drill, baby, drill. Notice 3 words. Energy policy has long been skeptical of climate claims. Last year, for example, his address to the United Nations penned climate change as a con job, the climate con. Here is that 2025 snippet. Here we go.
But we're not letting this happen in America. In 1982, the executive director of the United Nations Environmental Program predicted that by the year 2000, climate change would cause a global catastrophe. He said that it will be irreversible, as any nuclear holocaust would be. This is what they said at the United Nations. What happened? Here we are. Another UN official stated in 1989 that within a decade, entire nations could be wiped off the map by global warming. Not happening. You know, it used to be global cooling. If you look back years ago in the 1920s and the 1930s, they said, global cooling will kill the world. We have to do something. Then they said global warming will kill the world.
And Trump's been around about 15 more years than I have. And he's seen the same thing. Every 10 years, it was a different, you're going to burn up. You're going to freeze to death. You're going to drown. And we hear the same old crapiola again and again and again and again. Finishing up the Trump speech, here we go.
Then it started getting cooler, so now they could just call it climate change, because that way they can't miss. It's climate change. Because if it goes higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, there's climate change. It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world. But we're not.
It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world. And he's 111% correctamundo. How these people think they can get away with such stupidity? Well, they have. California's a perfect example. Look at our stupid elections. They conned the people into destroying themselves. Oh, we're pretty good. We test piloted how to do this. Now we're going to go across the nation and across the world. COVID con, climate con. Racist con. Whatever you want to come up with. Trump was totally vindicated. A lot of us have been totally vindicated. And you know what? This is what's going to shock a lot of people. Not a few that actually know what real science is. This is why you should not listen to the Bill Gateses of the world, and the Al Gores, and the anorexic little looking chick who's got S for brains, along with the other two. The improvement in the last 10 years, and the reason these statistics had to be revised, is because of fracking, or drill, baby, drill. It has released the energy that was polluting. It's like oil wells. If you don't pump the oil out of the ground, you get more pollution by the stuff that comes up through the ground or up through the oceans when you don't pump the oil. Same with the natural gas. What has triggered better crops and better climates has been fracking and actually getting that natural gas and oil that was in the shale rock and releasing that pressure. But you won't hear that on the ding-dongs at Fox News or PMSNBC or whatever they're calling it today, or 60 Minutes. Because that's actually improving your life. When Trump did Drill Baby Drill in 2017, we actually became a net energy exporter. We exported more energy going out than we did coming in, and we were on the path to being 100% totally energy independent. On top of that, Trump was on the 747, and you had the Tommy Robinson, the big rallies where the United Kingdom, England, all those are going to hell because of illegal immigration and not drill baby drilling. Here's what Trump had to say on Air Force One.
Trouble for two reasons: energy and immigration. He's very bad on energy. He should open up the North Sea. He's got a gold mine, and he should open up oil in the North Sea, and he doesn't. They have a tremendous value. They buy their oil, a lot of it, from Norway. Norway gets it from the North Sea. Not as good an area as Scotland and the UK has. So they're paying Norway a fortune for oil that they take out of the North Sea. Do you think Starmer's going to survive this?
So this is California. The United Kingdom, England, is just like California. We're buying oil. Most of the Mideast oil that comes to the United States comes to California because we stopped drilling. Not only did we stop drilling, Newsom capped existing oil and gas wells that were producing fine, that were making the climate better, as the UN says now. And now we're importing oil in all sorts of strange ways. We're cutting refineries, just like the UK did, and then we're going to charge you more for it.
I mean, it's a tough thing, unless he can straighten out immigration where he's weak, and if he doesn't start drilling, stop with the windmills all over the place and are causing havoc. They're causing havoc. Most expensive form of energy. They kill the birds. They're unsightly. They're ruining the landscape. If he doesn't stop with the windmills, he's got to do energy. He's got to open up the North Sea. He's got one of the greatest oil finds anywhere in the world, and he's not using it. And I tell him that he's not using it. Should he quit? The oil companies call me every day.
He's telling Starmer, quit being stupid. Quit destroying your country with illegal immigration and drill, baby, drill. Would set England off Set them back into, make them power players again, instead of a national disgrace. As Tommy Robinson and the crew, they had the big rally out there pointing all this out this Saturday or Sunday or whenever it was. I mean, how much more idiocracy do we got to get to? Or are we going to tolerate? It's astonishing the amount of stupid we will tolerate. Get to a couple local stories, and it's Ben Johnson Day. He's running for Riverside County, running for re-election, Riverside County Board of Office of Education, Area 2. So if you're in that area down around Riverside, vote for Ben Johnson. Wake up, people. This is I like this one, for Measure Z. The 1% sales tax, 1.25%. They have an existing sales tax that's due to sunset in 10 years. They passed 10 years ago. Ironically, it was Measure Z too. And we're going to put police and fire and more parks and all this other stuff. And that never happened. So now we got to go we got to extend it into infinity and raise it 25% to a point and a quarter. Do not buy the con. Whenever you see all this, it's not going to the fire department. It's not going to that. It's going to make salaries of public employees very wealthy. Period. It's where the bulk of the money, 70% of government money, is spent on salaries and benefits for employees. Not roads, not parks, not to repair your sidewalk, not to repair the pothole. Salaries and benefits for public employees. And they make almost double now in California. The average public employee makes double compensation versus the private sector employee. And they want more. Tell them to F off. Vote no 3 times on Measure Z. We've had enough of this crap. We've had enough of the lies and the deceits. Riverside Councilman Ronaldo Fierro was arrested we can't say that this was a humongous surprise, as they say. The Riverside Police Department issued the statement in response to media follow-up on Sunday, May 17th at approximately 9:35 a.m. They pulled up to the 5000 block of Hallwood Avenue after receiving a 911 call on an incident. I like how they put that, incident. A female alleged she was a victim of a domestic violence-related incident with Ronaldo Fierro, Former City Councilman Fierro was arrested for violation of California Penal Code 243E1, domestic battery. So we can't say that he's guilty, but he had a very controversial first term, made a run for assembly. So, and for this, I will thank him. He threw enough dirt on Clarissa Cervantes that it gave Leticia Castillo the chance to, and eventually won, the 58th District Assembly seat and one of the two flips. And Steve Robillard replaced him, which Robillard needs to grow a little more balls. He's done okay. The electricity, the overhead power line slip was a bad deal. Not throwing him under the bus, he just needs a little help. So that's a couple issues out of River City. That's going to be on the voting's going on now. No one measures Z. Big time. This is, and this one I caught this, I don't remember where I got it. This is a fun fact. Businesses in America have never had to board up windows because of Republican protesters. Isn't that, I mean, this thing is absolutely apropos. At least in my book. I think it's symptomatic of what's really wrong and what's right. The center right freedom liberty types are going to give you a much better chance of opportunity, be successful, versus the kook, the left, center left, the kooks. We've seen it all. And this is why I think we got a shot. And you see the intensity coming in the elections. We'll get to that here in a half hour when we join the Mighty Met KMET. But to touch on, and Gavin Newsom get his May revised, and he had the zero structural deficit and balanced budget. Well, as you see, the Legislative Analyst Office of California, the nonpartisan group, LAO, says California's structural money problem is officially here, and the state is ill-prepared if revenues slip. The structural problem is now upon the state, not zero structural deficit. The May revision relied on $20 million in reserve withdrawals. Plus, it didn't factor in the $30 billion we owe the federal government on the unemployment fraud. Plus $4 billion in borrowing. That's 50. The real deficit in California's $349 billion deficit is about $55 billion. Here it is, structural deficits persist in billions of dollars. Goes all the way to 2030, is as far out as they projected. In January, we noted that our office had the administration estimated state-faced deficits between 20 and 30 billion per year. Now they're saying probably 20 per year. But if we have any sort of economic downturn, the revenue hole could be $100 billion. They're saying you should be, on top of cutting spending, we should be making a $20 billion discretionary reserve deposit. So all that noise and BS crap that Gavin Newsom's tried to shove on us we now know is totally and 100% full of crap. There is no way you can believe anything that comes out of the Gavin Newsom mouth for any reason at any time. But we do, we have, and we have that time to change it. We have time, we have hope. But it's up to us to act. Here's what the counties of California had to say about this. Graham Canals. Hopefully, Graham
The May Revise does exactly what the President and Congress have done with H.R. 1. It abandons communities. More than 1 million will lose health care. Hundreds of thousands will lose food support. Our economy is going to struggle as folks miss work because of health issues and hunger. Children will be less present at school as a result of the same thing. That's not a winning strategy. It's also not California values. This budget takes state responsibility and it asks counties to do it for free.
That's the opinion of the CEO of the California State Association of Counties. He's saying Gavin Newsom full of crap. It's going to be very interesting. Intensity. We're going to talk about this when we come back. Motivation. It's ultimately a lot what decides how our political winds are going to shift. And usually that motivation is on the side of those who are not in power, especially when things are going haywire. Like California, like Los Angeles. That's why Spencer Pratt is gaining traction. Because people see the abhorrent conditions that the city of Los Angeles has turned into, and people like Buffoon Bass running it. Same with the state of California. You got B.S. Rob Bonner, Gavin Newsom, Corey Jackson, Robert Rivas, and the list goes on. Ulysses Cabrera. But the California Post puts it, California sees massive surge in Republican votes, has more than 900,000 ballots already returned. That was a Friday. We got a few more in. But The intensity's coming on the Republican center-right freedom liberty types. Big time. We have not seen this as strong, and it's stronger at the beginning. But the last time we've seen this sort of intensity on the center-right freedom and liberty types is the 2003 recall election of Gray Davis. And we know how that turned out. Arnold won in a big landslide. So we'll get into that and the arrest on the California election fraud in the next half hour when we join the Mighty Met KMET. And we will definitely blow your socks off if the climate change con in the UN coming up with, oh, it was all a hoax. Donald Trump was right. Not only a lot of us, like he was when he addressed us last year and said it was the climate con. We'll pick up with that. And plus, the shocking story that there's election fraud going on in California. Say it ain't so, Joe. It'll be absolutely 1,000% fantastic.
You got about 30 seconds.
If we pull this off. And we'll show you how we're going to, how the deck chairs are lining up that's showing that it's going to happen. We may be un-effing California's Herb Morgan. It's great. Second best political sign of all time behind Dick Ross. Oh man, we'll have fun in the next half hour as we roll out.
Here we go, 10 seconds.
For those who support America, patriotswitch.com.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the former today and Ben, joining our vast video audience in the evil FB network, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, type in IE Newswire. Roy Bleckert, you'll see my nice smiling, shining face. Man, what a deal. We covered the UN of all people, the United Nations admitted, oh, it's in a climate con. Trump was right in the last speech. We aren't going to all die by 2001. In fact, the environment's getting much better. And you know why? Because of fracking. We're releasing the pressure. It's like they said, if you don't drill for oil or natural gas, that stuff comes up through the ground and out into the atmosphere anyway, and it comes out in big pressures. And it comes out in worse situations than if we pump it out of the ground and use it to make our lives better and more productive. The environmentally friendly policy is drill, baby, frickin' drill. These tree-hugging eco-freaks, anorexic teenagers that don't know their hat from a hole in the ground are the ones that definitely you do not need to listen to. We covered the lead story, bourbon bubble bust. We have a 10-year supply of bourbon. Yes, we have a 10-year reserve supply of bourbon in the U.S. And it's Because people stopped drinking after COVID. They were drinking like fishes during COVID because, well, they were sitting around doing nothing. I say it's mostly because of the weed and the THC content going up. You can get a better buzz with no hangover over it, so people are just switching to weed. And it's going across all different sorts of alcohol, but really in the Kentucky bourbon. 10-year supply. 10-year reserve capacity. Imagine if we had 10 years of oil supply racked up. Which is not necessarily impossible, and we couldn't do it if we really put our minds to it. And we should. Talk about ruling the world. Alex Palou won the pole for the Indianapolis 500. Bad news for Mario Rossi, the second qualifier, crashed it today in practice. So we'll see if he can get it repaired or a backup car going in there. But Palou, who's been dominating IndyCar for a couple years now, put her on the pole position, will lead off the charge for the Indy 500 this coming up Sunday. The biggest spectator event in the entire world every year. You're hearing a lot of noise coming around, especially in the Sun, right? Oh, you got to vote for Steve Hilton. He might not get in. You know, that mean Sheriff Chad's going to keep him out. Da, 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 da. Tell people that are saying that to stick it up their rear end. In fact, most of them that are saying it are either what? Not based in fact, or they're working for the other side. Let's take the numbers now. Chad's about at 15%. Steve Hilton's at 20%. That's the floor. Every election we get 40%. The last two elections, 40% Republican, 60% Democrat. So there's at least 5% more out there to get. Plus, we're going to show you that. So all these, and who cares? If it's Steve Hilton or Chad Bianco versus any Democrat, they're going to lose in November. Your only shot is top two in June to win. The Democrats gave us this opportunity all across. Prop 14, top two, advance, which they've used successfully to capture 75% of the legislature in every state office and most localities. So, we have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, once in 50, 100 years, to turn the tables. They got the sucky six spreading their stuff out. Even the great Javier Baccaria is stalling out at 20%. So all we need to do is beat Baccaria down a couple points, keep Tom Steyer as he is, raise Chad up a couple points, and it's top two in June. And plus, I'm going to show you why this is even more possible. Because of the voter turnout and the intensity, which is one of the biggest things that shape these elections. We'll start out with Steve Maviglio, I'll get it out, and Tim Rosales. They were on with Ashley Zavala. They rolled out this.
He thinks he's clear. Steve, how does this impact the front runner?
Well, Becerra's gone from being on life support to being the front runner, and he's had this cloud over his head. I don't think it disappears, largely because Tom Steyer is spending tens of millions of dollars every day pounding into people's heads that he is somehow complicit in this. He's been batting it away, but I think that storm cloud is still there, and he'll be asked about it till the bitter end.
And how does this, Tim, for the rest of the field, Republicans and Democrats, how does this help them, if at all?
Well, Becerra's been able to two-step this a little bit and avoid it. You know, the question right now is, do voters really care? Is this something that is top of mind to them? Or are they willing to forgive this like they are other issues. They weren't willing to forgive Swalwell. That was a completely different kind of issue set in the minds of voters. But this, politicians moving money around, who's paying for this, it's a little bit esoteric for the average voter. And again, voters think all politicians kind of do this type of thing anyway. So I don't know that it hurts him much in this election.
It's been fodder in the debates that have played out over the last few weeks. There have been 5 so far total.
Right.
In those debates, just generally, Tim, I mean, has anyone emerged as a front runner, a leader in these discussions when they quarrel on stage?
The great orator has not presented themselves in this.
That right there, the two things. One, you got to push that deal. Are we going to accept Javier Baccaria and prove that it's wrong? Paid Sean McCluskey out of his campaign funds, his chief of staff in California when he moved to HHS secretary in D.C. Well, you're not making as much money. Well, we'll just filter some money out of here, which was totally illegal. Rosales seems to claim, oh, well, the people just accept that. Well, no, we're not. And again, even Baccaria is not standing out from the crowd. And him attacking the woman for not, oh, you're not going to kiss my rear end and do a puff piece?
California governor's debate, I don't think on either Democratic or Republican side. They've all had their moments, certainly, and I think some of them, last night, I talked a little bit about earlier, Antonio Villaraigosa having a very nice closing, and probably the best closing of all the candidates last night, but nobody has really emerged and been able to kind of sweep and mystify voters just with their debating skills.
Steve, what are you?
So right there, that's a great point. None of the sucky six on the Democrats have distinguished themselves at all. None of them have got... That's why the Democrats are going, well, we don't know, because nobody's capturing that imagination.
Yeah, it's been no runs, no hits, no errors, I think, on everybody's part. Nobody has emerged as a defining moment from any debate. Katie Porter, I thought, performed pretty well last night, and Becerra was good, very good in fending off the attacks because they were coming from all sides, Republicans and Democrats, because he's the front runner.
Okay, we got 30 seconds left, but Tim, just Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton, the Republicans in this race, they've been pretty cordial on stage. I mean, how does that help the party, or is it not?
Their votes are baked in with Republicans. I think they're going to get what they're going to get. Who they're competing with are the Democrats for those independent voters who are going to, might be motivated to turn out and vote in this primary. So votes that they can steal away from the Democrats only benefit them. But in terms of their Republican base, Hilton's got what he's going to get. Bianco's going to get what he's going to get. And, the rest of them, including the Democrats, are fighting over, those independent voters.
He's telling you top two. This is why they're nervous. They are flat nervous top two and June's going to win. We're going to show you the numbers here in a second. If they thought that it wasn't a possibility, they wouldn't be sending the minions out to do this. Here's Rob Stutzman on Inside Politics with Nikki Lorenzo.
The momentum continues behind his campaign. Is he going to be tough to stop at this point, do you think?
Maybe. I mean, there's a fear that Democrats, amongst Democrats, they make a mistake, so they're holding on to their ballot to wait to see how this plays out. We're seeing it statewide. Turnout is not going through the roof. So I don't know if I'd use the word momentum. There's a little bit of a sort of incremental nudge, but it's not like the big Mo where he's getting to 30 all of a sudden. So we'll see.
Rob.
Yeah, there's a little bit of who do we dislike the least here, I think. Becerra clearly has benefited from the Swalwell implosion. And we all thought from polling it would be Porter. But that goes to who they like the least. They've decided they don't like Porter. A lot of apprehension about Steyer after all that money that he's not in first place. So Becerra looks like the next thing to move on to. But the fact that the ballots aren't being returned like they usually are means they're still looking over that shiny apple and still checking the bin if there's any.
There's Stutzman and Acosta. Becerra ain't got over 20%. He seems to be stalled out. The Democrats are still, they have not rallied behind one candidate. at all. Here's Edbu Dienso or whatever. He worked for Newsom. He was on Pod Save America. He had this to say.
But as we're recording this, there's a clip circulating around of Becerra having a very awkward and uncomfortable conversation with a reporter about his coverage on KTLA in LA. The support, I've seen it. It has been texted and tweeted to me by everyone who works for every other candidate out there in the hopes that this will be like the Katie Porter moment. I'm not sure it will be, but Becerra's going to get scrutiny. And the question is, will enough people see this, how will he handle it? And almost even more importantly than that is, will people even see the scrutiny?
Yeah, I think that is the only question left to me, or I shouldn't say the only question, but is the core question left in the race with 3 weeks to go is, are people over it? Voters. Are voters just like, you know what? Basically nothing you can say can make me care enough to change where I am right now, because I've had enough of this race, whether they are sick of it, they're uninspired, or they just...
He's telling you the Democrats are uninspired, sick of it. They don't have a candidate they can rally around. This is 3 Democrats, highly ranked strategists telling you that. So the Steve and Chad can't get in the top 2. If that was the case, they wouldn't be saying this. They wouldn't have that nervous look in their face. This tells it all. This is the latest numbers. We're almost at 1 million. We're 2 weeks till voting. We only have 1 million ballots in, which is way lower than we should have. California has a D plus 20 registration advantage. They're only at 3.4. Now it's 40 to 37. As you see on the stats. 40%, only 40% of Democrats, 5% under. Republicans are 37-12. See, they're 6.2% turnout. Democrats are 3.2%. No party preference, 3-0. So here's the weeds of this. So you see, it's almost 2-1. If you just take Democrats versus Republicans, it's almost 2-1. Where independents are not overly conservative. They're about 50-50 split. But when you take that versus people registered by party, they're much more conservative than Democrat-Republican column. So what Maviglio and Acosta and crew are telling you is if that MPP goes 50% plus or 55-45 to Steve and Chad, and then the other 45% gets scattered among 6 Democrats, they're hosed. If this intensity comes up, like I said, we haven't seen this kind of center-right, freedom and liberty type intensity since the recall election. Usually the Republican number is down where that gray number is on no party preference in early balloting. Democrats have always turned them in earlier, whether you go by registration, age, everything else. Republicans are killing it on getting their votes in. You do it by whether, if you want to play the race card, registration share, and look at that. And this is what I'm talking about. Even though the first few ballots were D plus 20, 13, 10, the first 3 days, which is not much. But then it went D plus 7, down to D plus 3. Their trend is not going their way. And that's what they're extremely nervous about. The other thing we have going for us is all this, the elections were pure as wind-driven snow, and all this. We had Nick Shirley, Amy Reichert, Lori Mills coming out here, and then James O'Keefe exposing the voter fraud down on Skid Row on top of the Medi-Cal fraud and everything else. Here's a press release from Bill Asaley in the U.S. Attorney's Office in L.A. California woman federally charged with paying individuals, including homeless people in L.A. Skid Row, to register to vote. No, this never happened. James O'Keefe is reporting Brenda Brown, Skid Row election petitioner. James O'Keefe, caught on hidden camera, has pleaded guilty. Election fraudster Brenda Brown has been charged with 5 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, fine of $1,000, arrest, equal accountability. This is absolutely stunning. Here we go.
So first I want to talk about voter fraud in the case of United States versus Brown Armstrong, and we'll have a graphic up there in a moment. The Department of Justice has charged a longtime California signature gatherer under 52 U.S.C. section 10307 subsection C with one count of paying another person to register to vote in a federal election. The defendant, Brenda Lee Brown Armstrong, has signed a plea agreement and has admitted her guilt on this charge. According to the plea agreement, and my colleague Bill Asaley will be able to answer any specific questions about it, she worked as a petition circulator, aka signature gatherer, here in Los Angeles for approximately 20 years. And starting in 2025 or so, after Ms. Brown Armstrong had a practice of going down to Skid Row here in Los Angeles, getting homeless people to sign these signature petitions that had to do with qualifying ballot measures and et cetera, she would sometimes find that the signatures would be disqualified because the people signing these signature petitions weren't actually registered to vote. So to remedy this flaw in her business arrangements, she would then gather, starting in 2025, stacks of voter registration forms from the Los Angeles County Registrar of Voters, and then go to Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles to have homeless people first sign the voter registration forms and then sign the signature petitions. And she did this in exchange for cash and other items of value, inducements both for the voter registration and for the signature petitions. These were often small sums of cash, just a few dollars, as well as cigarettes and phone cards. On several occasions, when the homeless person had no formal address to enter on the voter registration form, Ms. Brown Armstrong provided them with a fake address, namely her own former address in Los Angeles, to write on the voter registration form. Now, the potential charges and sentence would include 5 years in prison, 3 years of supervised release, and a fine of up to $10,000. This case is important because it shows how easy it is under.
So hopefully she at least gets that. She signed a plea agreement, according to that. But, she gave them her own address to send ballots to? Wonder are we checking how many of those ballots that were sent to her home actually casted a vote? This stuff is absolutely incredible. And we were told this never goes on. There's no voter fraud. 2005 Riverside County. No, with the machines, that wasn't voter. The judge said, yeah, you probably got screwed, but the election's over, too bad, fix it on the next one. And now we're back to the same thing. Here we are 20 years later, and we can't even get a verification on the count. After we went through every ballot, every vote has to have a paper ballot identifying that we can go back and count. It was a whole deal with the machines in 2005. Well, once you went to boom, it was gone. Why are they trying to get rid of the ballots in Riverside County? Why are they trying to destroy them? Why are they trying to deny Sheriff Chad to keep custody of them? B.S. Rob Bonta and Clarissa Cervantes and Jose Medina. Well, now we see a big reason why. Just like with the climate con that the UN had to admit was doing it. And there we go. You know, all these frauds. It's actually environmentally friendly. It actually helps the planet. It extends your life to drill, baby, drill. Not grab onto a tree and say, don't cut it down so it'll burn down my house. And it'll make the 2x4s more expensive from $1 to $8 a piece to rebuild it once it's burnt down. The idiocracy of our whole that's going on is just absolutely almost unimaginable if we weren't living. But we got a chance to fix it. And we looks like we are. We need to keep that momentum up. We keep the turnout model. We keep the turnout model at Republicans +3 or -3. Republicans have never, even when we were splitting the legislature 50-50 and electing Republicans as governor, we were never closer than -10 versus Democrat-Republican registration. +3, -3 Democrat is like a landslide. And we're 2 weeks in. And the Democrats are like going, yeah, you know, just F it. Maybe Herb Morgan's right and vote for him for control. Maybe we're about to un-F California. Don't believe these clowns that are out there, oh, Chad ain't got a shot. Well, Steve ain't got a shot either unless it's Steve versus Chad. And you know what? If it's Steve versus Chad, we're going to have a lot better chance to elect the Herb Morgans and the Michael Gateses for Secretary of State, Shania Shaw for Superintendent of Public Instruction, Coast Garden for Insurance Commissioner, Gloria Romero for Lieutenant Governor. We got a good shot to get this done and change the trajectory. Ed Delgado out here for Assembly, along with keeping Leticio Castillo and Greg Wallace up there in San Bernardino and the lower desert. We got to hold those seats at Delgado, start cutting down that supermajority in the state legislatures, the super stupid majority. Just came up with a new term. Super stupid majority in our legislation. Be fun. Hopefully we'll have Dr. Kelly on tomorrow. She had a meeting today, so we'll get to that, and we'll bring you the rest. I'm sure there'll be lots of good stuff. Tom Massey election's going off tomorrow. That'll be big news and everything else going on. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours. Why? Best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
The preceding was a paid program.
All right, Roy. Well, I'm glad you're optimistic about it, because I'm sure the hell ain't.
Look at the statistics. There's a lot to be optimistic about.
I still don't think either Republican candidates will be in the top two.
Well, then it doesn't matter if it isn't them in the top two. It doesn't matter. So you got your shot to do it. Get your friends and family to vote. We need the votes on Chad right now. And we
Yeah. everybody.
If this turnout stays anywhere close, you may be in for a shock.
I hope so. I hope so, but even if the top two are Republican, what did Gruesome Newsom say? He's got a breaking glass moment coming for the Republicans. So we'll see.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't put it past them.
I'd like to see it.
All right, I will talk to you tomorrow.
See you.